Welcome, Rohit. Welcome to this session. Welcome, Venkat. Welcome, Roshni. Welcome, everyone. We're waiting for participants to join. Till the time we wait for the participants to join, you guys social the meetup communities. And I've already shared the link in the chat box, and also I've shared the link of the learning achievement badge. Till the time you wait, you can redeem your badges. Share the link in the chat box. Welcome everyone. Welcome to this session. We'll wait for a few more minutes for the participants to join, and we'll start this session next few minutes. Until then, go through our social media platforms and our meetup communities, and do redeem your badges. The time we wait, I've shared the link in the chat box. Sanju, you can update your those badges on your LinkedIn profile, or you can post it anywhere on social media. You have attended this webinar. Hello, Mansi ma'am, am I audible clearly?
Your voice is a little low. Can you just speak a little closer to the mic?
Is it better now?
Little. Can you just be a little closer to the mic?
What
Hmm.
about now? Is it better now?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So we will proceed with the session. So hello and welcome everyone. I'm Shubh Parmar, your host for today's webinar. My team and I are here to make sure you have a seamless and engaging experience. If you have any questions or need assistance, feel free to use the chat window. We are here to help. So the topic for today is data management with Microsoft Fabric end-to-end analytics. About the ATC community, this webinar is hosted by the ATC community, a hub for enthusiasts passionate about cloud technologies, AI, machine learning, IoT, open source development, and DevOps. Today's event is sponsored by Synergetics. Synergetics is a leading edge learning solutions provider in India offering specialized training and consulting services. We empower businesses and professionals to thrive in today's fast evolving tech landscape by delivering transformative learning experiences. Our core focus is on enabling digital transformation through innovative skilling programs, advisory services, and end to end implementation support. From modernizing IT frameworks to mastering emerging technologies like AI, cloud computing, and DevOps, Synergetics is committed to equipping you with the tools and knowledge to succeed. These are the learning solutions which are offered by Synergetics, which are persona based onboarding, onboarding add on, certification, certification add on, reskilling, emerging technology training, certification hackathon, cloud adoption, latest technology training, sales, pre sales training, practice playbook, and architecting. This is the Microsoft certification skilling journey. The journey begins with the fundamental certification, then progresses to advanced role based certifications, and finally to expert level certifications. We run communities on Meetup. This is the emerging technology community. Anyone who are eager to learn about technological knowledge can join this community on Meetup. We have multiple communities in Pune, Gujarat, Nagpur, and Indore. Those who are interested to join these communities, please log into the Meetup app and gain your knowledge for free. We are thrilled to have Ms. Mansi Sahan as our today's speaker. She is an IoT, data analytics, and ML consultant and trainer associated with Synergetics. She is a very capable consultant, experienced in training and skilling, designing learning curriculums, and mentoring professionals in various organizations. She's a learning consultant, content developer, corporate trainer, moderator with multitude years of experience. She has played many roles and provided skilling solutions for multiple organizations as well. So this session covers Microsoft Fabric's unified platform for data management, including data ingestion, storage in lakehouses, transformation with Data Factory, and analytics with Power BI. This is the learning plan, which includes a one-day webinar, self-learning plan, mentoring and exam prep sessions, and knowledge assessment. Uh, as you all know, we are also providing a complimentary learning achievement badges for this session, which includes an overview of the module topics which are related to this webinar. You can share the badges on your LinkedIn and X profile as well. To get the badge activated, you just need to follow the certain steps and redeem the badges. I've already shared the link in the chat box. You all have to follow the code of conduct, which will create a respectful environment for all the participants. Participants, please note, you are not allowed to take screenshot of the presentation and cannot do screen recording. I would like to take a moment to share some information about the certification workshops we conduct at Synergetics. This webinars you have been attending are designed to give you a brief overview and summary of the full course content. However, the HL certification training programs for this courses run over 4 days, and we are currently offering them at a special discounted rate exclusively for webinar attendees. On my screen, you can see the list of in-demand certification courses we are currently focusing on. For more details, I'll share contact to one of my colleague, Mr. Vivek Balasundaram. You can connect with him for more details regarding this courses. He will give you uh, all the information required for this. So, all right, everyone, it's time for a quick quiz to make our session a little more interactive and fun. We have 5 questions lined up, and each one will test your knowledge of today's topic. Don't worry, it's all about learning and fun. So think of this as a chance to check how much you have picked up. So quickly drop your answers in the chat box of after every question. So what is the main goal of Microsoft Fabric? I request everyone to please drop your answers in the chat box. Don't worry, it's just for your learning. So yes, B is the right answer to provide an end-to-end unified analytics platform. We'll jump to the next question. Which component of Microsoft Fabric is primarily used for data transformation and integration? So yes, B is the right answer. Data Factory is the correct answer. Well done, everyone. We'll jump to the next question. What is one lake in Microsoft Fabric? Quickly drop your answers. Is it A, B, C, or D? So yes, B is the right answer for this question. A central data lake for storing organizational data. We'll jump to the next question. Which Microsoft Fabric feature allows users to build visual dashboards and reports? Is it A, B, C, or D? Quickly drop your answers. Well done, everyone. That's correct. B is the right answer. We'll jump to the next last question. How does Microsoft Fabric help in maintaining data governance? Quickly drop your answers. This is the last question. Well done, everyone. That's correct. Again, B is the correct answer. So thank you so much, everyone. But do follow us on our social media platforms to get relevant updates on upcoming webinars, workshops, and certifications training we conduct at Synergetics. So I've already shared the link in the chat box. So please do follow us on our social media platforms. Uh, Thank you so much, everyone, for listening to me. Mansi ma'am, you can take over from here.
Thank you so much, Shrup, for the introduction. A good evening to everyone. So, welcome to the Data Management with Microsoft Fabric End-to-End Analysis webinar. So, we will. So, it's just an introduction to this topic. It's not a training, as you all know. It's a webinar. It's just for 2 hours. But since it's a weekend, we'll try and wrap it up this session as soon as possible so that you all are free and, of course, you are able to gain some knowledge from this webinar. Okay, so let's go ahead and first of all understand what is this Microsoft Fabric service, why Microsoft thought that we need such a service in order to manage our data, in order to perform end-to-end analysis and giving the questions that were asked and the answers everyone gave. I'm pretty sure you all are already aware about it. So let's um let's again just do a quick recap, a quick overview of what exactly is the Fabric service. So let's understand why Fabric came, what is Fabric, and let's just look at some of the demos, how you can get started with the Fabric service. Okay, so let's try and keep it as short as possible. So I'll try and cover up a few conceptual topics in the beginning, and then after that, we will just see demos, how you can perform this, how does it manage, how does the Fabric platform help you to manage this, manage that. Just a quick overview in the later part so that we can end the session as soon as possible. So now let's get started with the introduction. So we all know that nowadays data is very important. Data is something that is very critical. Every organization, enterprise works with data or cannot operate without data, right? They need data to perform, to collect it so that they can do some analysis on top of it, right? We all know that if I want to boost my sales of any of my organization, or if I want to make my marketing strategies implement, get good revenue, right? Understand which post got how many likes, was it reshared, was it reposted, improve my sales, what was my sales this month, what was my sales last month. I want to question my data because until and unless you don't ask questions, you don't question your data, you will not come to know what was your total sales, what is the marketing uh, traffic that you got, all those information. If I have to extract from my data, if I have to analyze, we need data, and data without analysis and analysis without data is meaningless, right? So over here, data is something that is important. Now, even if I have to do any analysis, even if we talk about AI, which is becoming so popular nowadays, right? How can I perform or implement AI if I don't have data or I don't know how to manage data? So clearly, data is something that is important. It's something that is very, very critical, right? So we need to know how to manage it. So now, when this data comes, right, this data that gets generated or it is stored, we all know there are so many sources from where data comes. So, can you all very quickly in the chat let me know what are the different sources from where data is generated or data is stored? Yes, guys, what are the different sources of data? Can you all let me know very quickly in the chat? Okay, API, Salesforce, block storage. Okay. Any other sources you all can think of? Okay, Excel. Any other source that you all can think of? Yes, absolutely correct. So WhatsApp, we can call it as application because Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp, you have so many applications. So we can just summarize it as an application. Yes, absolutely correct. So over here, we have so many sources from where data comes, right? We have database or databases from where data is stored or it is coming from. We have the file storages. We have the sources or file storage where the data comes from. Like we have Excel files, we have CSV file, we have the text file, correct? We have Data also comes from SharePoint, correct? Data also comes from data warehouses, which is also very popular, right? Data also comes from data lakes, correct? Websites, applications, social media, correct? We have so many sources, absolutely correct. We have data that comes from IoT devices or sensors, correct? We have so many sources from where data comes, right? Also, nowadays, we have a very popular source which has become very, very popular. Every enterprise also uses that, which is also called as the generative AI, right? The chat GPT models or the LLMs that we use, they are nothing but generating either a text or an image or video or some kind of content they are generating. So in a way, it is a generation only or a source from where data comes in, correct? You have your social media, LinkedIn, Twitter, sorry, X, you have Instagram, Facebook, so many Snapchat where you upload these images or your videos, your posts, right? All the blogs and etc. that you write. So what is that? That is nothing but data only, correct? You need to manage that data. You have cloud sources also, right? From cloud, you also can generate data or data comes in from there. So many sources, right? From where data comes. So guys, if you have any questions, any doubts, please put it in the chat, or if you have to talk to me, we cannot unmute you all and we can give you the chance. You will have to ask your questions in the chat. Okay, so please do not raise your hand. You don't have the option to unmute also. So whatever questions you have, please feel free to put it in the chat. So here you can see we have so many sources from where data comes, data is generated or data is stored within an enterprise, within an organization, correct? Now, this data that we get from these sources, right? When we talk about databases, we talk about data warehouses, or we talk about the CSV files or applications or IoT devices, correct? The data normally that we get is not of one type, right? The type of data is not the same. So when we talk about data in a database, or we talk about data coming from, or we talk about images, audio, video, we all know that the type of the data is not the same. So can you tell me what are the three different types of data that is there? Yes, guys, can you tell me what are the three different types of data? Because in our database, IoT devices, right, the data that we get or the data normally stored is not of the same type. So in a database, right, we will not find that the same data that we file it and we see it in the files, right? So we all know that there are three types of data. That is absolutely correct: structured, semi-structured, and unstructured data, right? These are the three types of data that we normally find or we have to work with when the data we ingest from the source. So what kind of data are we getting? What type of data are we getting? It is nothing but either a structured data, semi-structured, or unstructured. So now this data, when we store, right, in these sources, or it is coming from these sources, normally in a database, we know it is a structured data, and this structured data can have two kinds of format, right? Data has two formats to it. That is either a table or a file, right? It can either be saved as a table, so a structured relational table, or it can be a file, so it could be a structured file also, like we have a CSV. So what is CSV? CSV is nothing but comma separated value, correct? So those files are also structured files. We have semi-structured data, which is normally stored in the NoSQL database, right? Where the structure is flexible. It doesn't have a fixed structure, a fixed outline to the data. So such a data is called as semi-structured. So you have your JSON files, you have your XML files, some of the data, that is the NoSQL data, is also stored in the semi-structured format, right? So that is semi-structured data. Then you have unstructured data, wherein when you click photographs, you take in videos or etc. You take a video or you click photographs. So what is that? That is nothing but unstructured data because it doesn't have any structure to it, right? It is an image will never have a structure. It's something that is very it is based on pixels, right? You capture pixels or values, again, numbers, etc. But it is unstructured. It doesn't have a defined schema, defined structure to it. So that is why it is called as the unstructured data. Now, this unstructured data is normally in files. So your JPEG files, your MP4 files, your MP3 files, normally that you find is always in the file format. So this is so data is not a, first of all, it doesn't come from one source. Secondly, the type of the data that you're managing from these sources is different. And third, the format is also different. At times you might be just working with tables. At times you might be just working with files. So you need different storages, different, different storages to store this kind of data. Your analysis that you are doing, right? Because this is ultimately what you're going to do with this data. You need you need to perform analysis. So if you don't have the data, so analysis is meaningless. Otherwise, how will I analyze the sales data, marketing data, or if I want to even do predictive analysis, that is train an AI model, if I don't have the data, I will not be able to do that. Right? So that is why we need data is very important. Now, this data can be of different types, so we need to learn even how to manage that. Right? Now, at times when you get this data, the processing now, because we are talking about building analytical solutions, right? We are building because we need to cater, we have to build or we have to basically boost our enterprise sales, improve our marketing strategies, hire more people, right? Improve our revenue, improve our profit. So we need to perform all of this, and we all know that it's not something that can be achieved directly. It is a journey, it is a step-by-step process that you have to do. Now, when you get this data from these sources, whether it's a database or it's a data warehouse or it's a file, right? This data that we normally get is raw in nature, right? It is raw. It is not something that is ready for us as a data scientist or a data analyst or even a data engineer. It is something that is not ready to start analysis on top of it. Even if let's say you're a data scientist or an AI engineer, for you all, you need the data to be ready so that it is something you can use it and you can perform predictive analytics on top of it, right? So if you want to, guys, refer to the recordings or you want to go through the webinar again, whichever webinar you have missed. So, Shubh has shared the YouTube link where you can go and you can subscribe to our channel, our YouTube channel, where we upload all the webinars that we conduct. So, if Shubh, you're listening to me, please post the YouTube channel link so that if somebody has missed out on any webinar, so guys, you have to just subscribe to our channel. It is free, of course, and go and you can refer to any webinar that is there. So you can just search for our channel also, right? You can search for our YouTube channel and you will, if you subscribe, you will get all the updated webinars over there. So the enterprise name is Synergetics. So Synergetics is the one who is sponsoring this event, is conducting this event. So you can just go ahead and Shubh, if you're listening, please fill out. Shubh will let you know about the uh, YouTube channel and our other social media platform channels that are there. He will definitely update you about it. Okay, so just give us some time. We will definitely put it in the chat. So in case you have missed out any webinars, please feel free to reach out to go to the YouTube channel and you can definitely see or you can go through the recordings again. So over here now, when we talk about the data, right? Data is, I told you, it's something when we collect from these sources, it is generally raw. It is something that is um, it's something that we need to make it perfect so that I can perform analysis. Because when we talk about data, data is something that only one person doesn't manage. That it is a team, it is a collaborative effort that goes into analysis. So when we talk about roles in data, so there are multiple people who come and collaborate together so that the analysis that you can perform on the data is is perfect. I mean, you can achieve that analysis through these roles. So everyone in this team collaborates something or the other. So the first role that we have is of a data engineer. Okay, so a data engineer's job basically is to perform ETL or ELT. So guys, can you all tell me what is the full form of ETL or ELT? So they are nothing but data pipelines. Okay, they are nothing but data pipelines because I told you the data that we get from these sources is not perfect. It's not something I can directly use for analysis. So we need to make it perfect. We need to clean it, transform it so that all the raw data that let's say we don't want some columns, we don't want some rows, we don't want some, or we want to replace one value with the other, replace one column, combine multiple tables or queries or multiple sources from where data is coming into one source, right? So if I want to do that, if I want to transform this, after I've got the data, I've extracted the data, I need to either transform it, right? We need to transform the data and then we need to load it so that the next person in the data, as a data professional, whether it's a data analyst or a data scientist, can pick up that data and perform further analysis on it. So the first role is of a data engineer, and this is what the data engineer does. He basically orchestrates or helps you build an end-to-end analytical solution by getting the data ready for further analysis. So what is the job of a data engineer? Is to design a data pipeline. So he can design it in two ways. One way is using ETL. So ETL stands for, as correctly put, okay, it is nothing but extraction. It's to extract the data from the source, either transform it, okay, transform it and load it to a destination so that your data, the next roles in the data, that is of a data analyst and a data scientist, can pick up this data, this cleaned data, this transformed data or data that doesn't have any discrepancies like missing values, okay, unnecessary columns, columns that have names that we didn't require, okay, all those things, or rows that you don't require, all those things are clean and they are loaded into another destination, which the data analyst and the data scientist will pick up. Okay, so that is what basically is ETL, or you can first of all extract the data. So before you transform the data, you load it to the destination. Okay, you load it to the destination, and at the destination, you perform the transformation of the data. Okay, you perform the transformation of the data so that, again, the data scientist or the data analyst can pick up that data and further do analysis. So what does a data analyst do? What does a data scientist do then? So this is the job of a data engineer, but a data analyst will create, will work with visuals, will visualize your data so that through visuals, you can perform analysis. So that is the job of a data analyst, whereas the job of a data scientist is to perform predictive analysis, train an AI model. Okay, so that once the data is clean, transformed, loaded, the data analyst or the data scientists can pick up that data and further perform analysis. So that is how you get an end-to-end analytical solution. Okay, so when we talk about the data architecture, okay, because it's a team, everyone, it's a collective effort, right? Everyone comes together. So we all discussed about the different sources from where data is generated, right? Or it is stored, that is a database. It could be a structured data, it could be a semi-structured data. It could also be real-time data that is coming in from the IoT, sorry, it's coming from IoT devices or sensors, correct? So you could see we have so many sources. Now we need to extract those sources, extract the data from the sources, transform it or either load it and then perform the transformation or loading. And then from there, you can either visualize the data, perform data analysis, or train an AI model through data science. So this is what basically is the data architecture. Is this is how actually an analytical solution is built. So that is why it is a team effort. Data engineers, data scientists, data analysts come together and perform small bit in that analytical solution. Now when we talk about the processing of this data, okay, because in the analysis is nothing but in simple terms, it means just to question your data. Okay, it is a way of asking your data because when you ask, okay, what is your total sales? What is your total quantity sold? Which product had the highest sales, had the lowest sales? What is it? It is nothing but a way of questioning your data and retrieving information, right? That is what exactly is analysis. And if I have to perform that, okay, then great, you can work and it will be a one-person job, which normally people don't give it. Okay, it's not a one-person job normally. So it has to be segregated and then it has to be performed. So yes, you can have a combination, like you could be a data engineer, data scientist, you could be a data engineer, data analyst, or you could have all of them. It doesn't matter. But it's not something like when you go to any enterprise, nobody is going to rely on one person to do it. You can have knowledge about it, but certain tasks are divided across people. Okay, so it is good if you have the knowledge, but it never the task will be given to everyone. Okay, so now when we talk about, since we are talking about data, so data can be processed in two ways. Okay, you can process the data in two ways. One is a batch processing, and second is a stream processing. So we all know that when we talk about data getting stored in databases, files, etc., it is already something that is collected. And later on, we are analyzing the data using those sources. Correct? So when we talk about credit card payment, when we do, it's something that we do later whenever it is due. It doesn't happen immediately, right? The payment is done later on, not immediately. So that kind of a processing, if I have to analyze that, then it is called as the batch processing. But there can be scenarios where at times you might have to process the data or analyze the data there and there, right? It has to be analyzed immediately. So such a processing when you do, like for example, the weather information or the stock prices, which keep on changing on a daily basis. Your weather information also keeps on changing on a daily basis. So that kind of processing, if I have to do, I need to do it immediately. I cannot collect a certain batch of data and then later on process it. For example, you are working in some oil and gas industry you're working in, and one of your job is to ensure that when you're transporting the fuel, whether it is petrol, diesel, whatever, if you are transporting it from one point to the other point. They all know that petrol, diesel, or these oil or these fuels are highly combustible and highly inflammable. right? So it has to be transported with great caution, with great care. So it has to, the tanker now, transporting it has to be constantly monitored because you cannot afford that tanker to have some leak, right? There has to be multiple sensors that have to be placed which are tracking in a on a constant basis, probably after every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes, or every 1 minute. It is constantly monitoring the temperature, the other sensors that you have fitted on that tanker. So now, when you, if you are doing batch processing, so what it is going to do, it is going to collect the data and later on you process it, right? After the week or after the month, you process it. But there are certain scenarios like these where you need to have a constant analysis has to be done because what if the temperature goes up or what if there is a leak in the this thing? So you need certain actions that need to be implemented and it has to be done immediately. You cannot afford to have such a catastrophic event after. I mean, what if the tank leaks and the fuel is leaking? So, of course, it is. If you do the analysis later, you come to know, okay, there was a leak. It's too late by that time, right? So, we need to have some kind of analysis that is done immediately, or the data is being processed immediately. So, such an analysis, if I am doing, or if I'm working with the real time data, then it is called as the stream processing. So the type of the data could be anything. It could be a structured data, it could be a semi-structured data or unstructured data. But if I want to analyze that data immediately, right, rather than waiting, then that kind of a processing or that kind of an analysis is called as real-time analysis, and the processing is called as stream processing. Why stream? Because data is continuously streaming and it is coming from your IoT devices, right? So this is the fundamentals of the data, right? That we need to know before we start, because this is all basically that makes or breaks the data analysis that is there, right? This is how you start your analytical journey by understanding your data. If you don't know how the data is, what kind of transformations are you going to perform? How are you going to load it? How are you going to make it? How is the data engineer going to make it easy so that the data analyst can just do a little bit of transformations and start visualizing, create a report, create a dashboard on top of that data. Or a data scientist doesn't get discrepancies in order to train an AI model. So this is a collective effort. It's something where everyone has to collaborate and come together, right? Now, earlier, or let's talk about a scenario before Fabric came. It's not that um, people were not developing end-to-end analytical solutions. There were analytical solutions being built, right? So why Fabric? Then why did Microsoft think, okay, I need a service like Fabric? So let's just understand the uh, challenges. Okay, very quickly, let's understand the challenges and then we will understand certain terminology and we will get started with the Fabric service. We move on to the demo part. Okay, so let's very quickly just understand some fundamentals of the Fabric service. How is Fabric helping us to build, helping us to manage this data? Okay, what if I'm doing a real-time analysis? What if I'm doing a batch analysis? Will that be supported? If my sources are data warehouse, if I want to create reports, if I want to analyze the data, I'm a data scientist, I want to train an AI model. Will I be able to do that using the Fabric service? So if I have to understand the Fabric service, okay, I have to understand why this service came. We need to understand certain challenges that people used to face earlier. It's not that people never built end-to-end analytical solution. So one such example we talked about is this. It is your data architecture. This is how the data is going to flow. This is how the data analytical solution is was earlier being built, where you had all the different services that you could use. So earlier, like when we had databases, so in order to analyze the data on the databases, we would normally use SQL commands. Then we have coding languages, that is using Python or Node.js or Java or R programming, etc. So we got different APIs, right, to question our data, to analyze our data, right? And we all know this was earlier why it was a challenge, because you had to learn those languages, understand the syntaxes, okay, write those commands, and then you could analyze or retrieve the data from a database or a file or anything, any source, correct? Just 1 second, guys. Yeah. So we had to use or learn one of the coding languages, learn SQL commands, and learn how to write them, and then only we could go ahead and query them. But as technology involved, cloud came in, cloud played a very, very important role, right? So cloud became it became kind of a changing point in our, as we look at technology nowadays. So we all know that cloud evolved, right? Later on, it came with some basic this thing, but later on, everything you could do on the cloud platform, right? And we all know there are so many cloud platforms available, right? We have the AWS, that is the Amazon Web Service. We have GCP, we have IBM, we have so many cloud platforms. And one such cloud platform we all know is also popular is the Microsoft Azure Cloud. So I'm going to use this example. I'm going to use this cloud, and we are going to try and understand the challenges that people faced that led Microsoft to create the Fabric service. Okay, so very quickly, we are going to try and understand this. So when we talk about the storage, okay, when we talk about storing data on the Azure cloud, so I'm just going to take one example, one Azure, one cloud. It is the same if you talk about AWS, GCP. Okay, it is exactly the same challenges you would face on any of the other clouds as well. So here, just one cloud example I'm taking. So when we talk about storage, so we all know that depending upon the type of the data, the source, we can create a storage on the Azure cloud. So we have the Azure blob storage to manage unstructured data. So blob is nothing but binary large object. So binary large object indicates nothing but your images, audio, video, right? They are nothing but blobs as we call it. So it is the Azure blob storage that we have. We have the Azure data lake. So if you want to store any type of data, so we have the Azure data lake Gen 2 storage. If you want to work with relational data, right? So you have the Azure SQL database. If you want to work with no SQL data, right, then you have the Azure Cosmos DB for that. If you want to do data warehousing on the Azure cloud, so for that also you have a service which is called as the Azure Synapse Analytics. Correct? We have the Azure Synapse Analytics, whose former name was Azure SQL Data Warehouse, right? So if you have to store the data, you have these services in order to store the data. And of course, other services are there, but I'm sticking to the data part more. Okay, we will be focusing on the data part here. So we have these services that are there, correct, which store different types of data. Then if I have to perform ETL, ELT, which is a part of my analytical solution, because the data that we get from these sources is raw, it is not clean, right? It is something that we need to work upon. So we need to perform ETL. Yeah. So if you are working with real-time data, guys, and you have to capture the real-time data that is coming from the IoT devices or sensors or logs, because they keep on changing, or you're doing some log analytics, etc. So you need to capture that telemetry data, right? Because it's coming in real time, it's streaming in real time. So we need to capture the data in that manner. So for that, on the Azure cloud, we have the Azure IoT Hub and the Azure Event Hub. okay, Event Hub that you can use in order to capture the real time or the telemetry data or the streaming data that you're getting from the sensors or the IoT devices. So in terms of this doesn't actually store, guys. Azure IoT Hub and Event Hubs actually don't store the data. Okay, it's just a way of actually I shouldn't put it here, but I'll put it in the ETL or ELT. It's just a way of ingesting the real-time data. Okay, it's just a service on the Azure cloud to extract real-time data. That's it. Its job is just for extraction of the data. Okay, so you have the Azure IoT Hub and etc. for the real-time data. So if you want to extract the data from databases or Cosmos DB or files or blob storage, then you have an ingestion tool, a data movement tool, which is very popular. That is the Azure Data Factory. You can use Azure Databricks. Okay, you have the Azure Synapse Analytics also, right? So these are the tools that you can use in order to perform ETL or ELT on the Azure cloud, right? Now, one part of the analysis I told you is also visualization that the data analyst does. You need, if you visualize your data, we all know that we can interpret the data better, we can understand the data or analyze the data better. So for that, if I have to perform visualization, we have a tool which is very, very popular, which is called as the Power BI tool, right? Then we have the Azure Databricks also. Okay, so there is one part in the Databricks service that I can use for visualization as well. Okay, so we can even do that here. So we have the visualization. These are the tools that I can use. So if I have to train an AI model, sorry, for analysis of the data for real time. Okay, if you want to analyze the data that is coming from the IoT hub or the event hub, you want to perform ETL or you want to analyze the data in real time. Okay, so you have services even for that. Analyze. So on the cloud, Azure cloud, you have a service for it, which is the Azure Stream Analytics. Okay, you have this also. So here you have for training an AI model or a ML model. So you have the Azure ML Studio. You have the Azure AI Foundry that is there. Okay, so these are the things that you can manage. These are the services that you can use on the Azure cloud for developing your analytical solution, developing an end-to-end analysis, right? So if you see, this is the architecture. This is how it is managed, correct? So for ingesting, you can use Synapse, you can use Data Factory, you can use IoT hubs. Okay, for transforming, again, you can use Data Factory or Synapse or Databricks, right? But for real-time data, it is a different service. For performing visualization, you can use Power BI, you can use for training an AI model, you can use the Azure AI Foundry or the ML Studio, right? But now since we're working with data, right? Data, we are working with data and we all know data is something that is a private information. It's private or personal to people. So naturally managing the security, managing who can access the data, who has the authorization to access it. All those things also we have to take into consideration. We also have to take into consideration the governance, right? Because it's a private data. It needs to be protected. You are working in the cloud. So you all know that in cloud, we deploy this data or we deploy these services, we upload this data in some region, right? So we need to even look into those factors, correct? So over here, in order to manage the security, identity, and access, right? We have services on the same cloud platform that is Azure. So we have Azure Key Vault, we have the Azure, we have Microsoft Defender, we have Microsoft Sentinel, right? In order to perform identity and access. We have the MFA, that is the multi-factor authentication. We have the conditional access. Okay. All these things you can apply in order to perform or authorize people to use certain services. We have this role-based access control that you can have on every service. So you are basically limiting the access of that person, of that user, based on a role. Okay, giving a granular approach to it. So that is nothing but the role-based access control that is there. So this is in terms of the security, identity, and access. In terms of the data governance, we have another tool that you need to use, which is called as the Microsoft Purview, correct? So all these services that are there, though, so these services were already being used by people in order to perform their end-to-end analytical solution, build their data architecture, and perform the analysis, give an entire analytical solution using these services. But then why Fabric? What was the reason behind Fabric? So the very first thing is that all these services that we see, they are on the same cloud platform, I agree. So it should not be so difficult for people to create these services, but it is, okay. And the main challenge that lies in using this or these services, though they are on the same platform, is that all these services are platform as a service. Okay. In case, I mean, I don't have the time to explain if you all don't know what is platform as a service. Just to give you a brief idea about what platform as a service means, it is nothing but you need to get a platform ready for your service. Okay, configure certain physical requirements, configure the VM, configure the operating system, the storage, etc. All those things, wherever you need your application to be created or your service to be created. So you need the platform ready, right? And then on top of that, you deploy it. So if I have to use all these services, though they are on the Azure cloud, I need to get the platform ready in order to use these services. And then I can go ahead and build my analytical solution. So the main challenge lies in that they are all, except Power BI, just scrap out Power BI from this. Okay, except Power BI, all the other services are platform as a service. Now, because they are platform as a service, there are certain challenges that come because of this. Because the main challenge, see, everything, all the challenges that I will be listing down, all the main reason for these challenges is that they are platform as a service. So over here, the first challenge and the most important challenge that people earlier used to face before Fabric came was integration. Okay, was integration. Meaning now when we talk about building an analytical solution, that means I need to use not every service is giving me or is helping me perform all that task. In order to perform visualizations, I need Power BI. For security, I need Key Vault. For identity access, I need some other service. To store the data, I need some other service. To ingest the data, to transform the data, I need different services. So though they are on the same platform, I need to integrate these services. Why? Because they are all platform independent. They work individually, is what I mean to say. Okay, so all of them work individually. They have no common ground where I can work with them and easily integrate these services. So if I have to use IoT Hub, I have to use Power BI, I have to use Databricks. So I have to create these services individually. Okay, and then later on, go ahead and integrate them, flow the data through these services. Make sure it goes from one service to the other. And in doing that, first of all, I need to get the platform ready. Then I need to firstly integrate them once I get the platform ready. Now, once you're working with them, okay, you create the platforms, you deploy the services, you do all of that. Not a problem. You take that effort because you're a team. So certain things will be done by somebody, certain things will be done by the other person. You manage all of that. Okay. But because all of them are platform independent. So what happens is that all the work that you do now, when we talk about data factory or we talk about Power BI or in data factory, okay, there are two components that are there, or the interface that the data factory is built is primarily of two components, that is the pipelines and the data flows. Okay, similarly in Azure Databricks, you have only the notebooks as an interface. Whereas in Synapse, you have everything. You have pipelines, you have data flows, you have SQL editors also. If you want to write SQL commands, you want to do big data analysis, use notebook, okay, build pipelines. All those things you can still do on the Synapse using the Synapse service. Or when we talk about Power BI's main interface or things that you have is nothing but the reports, dashboards, semantic model, right? They are all independent. They have their own way of working. So when you work on them, on these platforms, okay, these platforms have their own space because they are platform as a service. So they create their own individual space, which is always called as the workspace. So what is a workspace? A workspace is nothing but a dedicated space where you can work, right? All of you will go to the office or you'll sit and study somewhere. So it's a dedicated space for you where you go and work. You keep your things that you require for working, your laptops, your water bottle, tiffin boxes, etc. Right? All of that you use, right? And you keep it where, which is going to be helpful for your work. So now whatever work you do using these services, the scope is only restricted to this workspace. So let's say you're using data factory, you have created pipelines. All the pipelines of the data factory are only going to be stored in this workspace. Notebooks, you work with notebooks, you're using Databricks. The notebooks are only going to be available in the Databricks workspace. That's it. So because of that, integration also becomes a challenge. Why? Because everything boils down to it being platform as a service. They are working independently. So at times we all know if we work independently, it can be a challenge. That is why there is a team that comes up so that you all can share, collaborate, and faster things get implemented. Right? Your work, your project gets implemented faster. So that is why when you have your work scattered across different services, so integration is going to be a challenge, right? Because it's scattered across 10 workspaces and all those workspaces get created depending upon the service you're using. So that is a challenge. The third challenge, which is also another important challenge, is the compute. Because here you're doing analysis, you're giving the data, you have to perform the transformations, right? You have to create a report, you have to see the output, the data getting displayed on the report, the pipelines getting implemented, the notebook code getting implemented. You need to see the output. Who is going to get that output for you? It is nothing but the compute or the physical resources. Okay? The physical resources. So now, depending upon what workload you are doing, depending upon what analysis you are doing, you need to create that compute. So, okay, you get the platform ready, you get everything ready, you're ready to even integrate, create, manage different workspaces. But now you're telling me, okay, if I have to perform analysis, for that I need different compute. So for, let's consider Synapse. Okay, if I just consider the Synapse platform, okay, in Azure Synapse, when we are working, okay, just in the Synapse platform, okay, if I have to work with different workloads, right? Sorry, Surya, we don't have the time to go and see all these services. So Synapse is a platform as a service. Okay, it's not a SaaS service, so it's a PaaS solution. So I'm sorry, but I can't give you any demo as of it. It is a prerequisite if I have to talk about this particular uh, uh, service. So you should have some knowledge on Synapse at least. Okay, that's a prerequisite. So I cannot focus on that for now. Okay, but if you go online, you will get an idea of what Synapse is. You can refer to the Microsoft links, study links. You will definitely understand what is the Synapse service. So in Synapse, if I have to use it, so in Synapse, depending upon the workload, like I said, or depending upon the analysis that you're performing, because on Synapse, you can do everything. Okay, it's like the foundation. If I have to be really honest with y'all, it is nothing but the foundation of the Fabric service. Okay, so that is why knowing at least Synapse service is going to be beneficial. Okay, so when we talk about Synapse and the compute, so I told you whenever you do the analysis, you need a compute, you need physical resources, and that compute or that analysis that you are doing, okay, will determine the compute that you require. So let's say you want to do SQL analysis. Okay, you want to do SQL analysis. So in order to perform SQL analysis on Synapse, you have two different computes. One is called as the serverless compute or serverless SQL pool, actually. And the second one is called as the dedicated SQL pool. Of course, both of them, their purpose is different. Okay, but they help you in performing or writing SQL commands only. So one is used if you have data which is stored as a file format. Okay, and you want to write SQL commands on files, then you use the serverless SQL pool. But if you want to do data warehousing, okay, this is actually the data warehousing. This is the pool that helps you perform data warehousing in the Synapse service. So you need a dedicated SQL pool for it. Let's say you don't want to use SQL analysis, you want to write a Python code or a Scala code or a R code, and you want to do analysis on your data. So for that, you have another pool you need to create, which is called as the Apache Spark pool. So let's say you want to do big data analysis using the Spark engine, okay, and writing a Python code and analyzing the data. Then you use the Apache Spark engine. Right? So for that, you have to create a separate pool that is the Spark pool. Let's say you want to work with real-time data. So for that also you need a different pool, okay, to handle that sort of data, which is called as the Azure Data Explorer. Okay, this is the name of the pool. So depending on what analysis you are going to perform, you require that compute. So till the time you don't create this compute, you get the service ready, you're managing the workspaces individually. But till the time you don't have the compute, you will not be able to do or perform that analysis in any of these services. So that's a challenge, right? You have to spend time in even creating the compute, correct? The fourth challenge is, of course, because they are platform as a service, they work independently, individually, right? So they are, so the security also that is there, it has to be managed individually. What kind of security do you want to apply? What kind of restriction you want to perform on the data? All of that you have to manage again individually because it's scattered across different services. So what kind of data or what kind of data you have to secure, you don't have to secure, which has to, where do you have to apply the sensitivity labels, okay, how to apply, how to do the data or the data loss prevention, all those things. If you have to do, then you, again, security is not a common ground because the services are different. So security is also not a common ground. Identity and access is also not a common ground because again, they are all being individually managed, correct? So you have to apply MFA, which service, who gets what authorization, what authentication do you apply? Do you apply MFA or not? If I have to, okay, once MFA is applied, what kind of access do I give them? Should it only be a reading access? Should it be a contributor access? They can come edit the content or not? All those decisions you have to take depending upon the service. Because if you're now integrating them, then it becomes even more challenging because you have to manage so many services. First of all, workspaces are different. And now on top of them, you are working as a team. I don't want one person in my team to see this data, the other person to see that data. So again, we need to restrict the access. restrict decide an identity, right? They cannot edit certain content. They cannot delete the content. We have to manage all of that in the analytical solution. So it becomes a challenge. Then the next challenge, which is very important, is the cost. Though they are on the same platform, on the Azure cloud, all these services are, the cost is also different. Cost has a different factors. We all know when we work on the cloud platform, they have their individual cost. It depends upon, of course, how much data are you egressing, that is outbound data. Where are you creating this service? In which region are you creating this service? What kind of subscription do you have? All those factors affect the cost, correct? The same thing is even in these services. It affects these services. And the next big challenge is your time. Okay, you create the service, you're ready to manage the workspaces, you get the compute ready, you have the cost also, you have done all the security, identity, blah, blah, all those things you have done. But it is so time consuming, right? It is so time consuming. That is why earlier the analytical solutions that were there, they would take time to build because integration is the biggest challenge. Once you get, because your platform as a service, integration is a challenge, is the biggest challenge out there. So over here, that is why Microsoft said, see, I don't want this. Okay, I don't want people to spend time in creating these services, deploying them, and later on integrating them. Okay, let's do one thing. Let's bring all these services onto a single platform. Okay, let's unify all these services instead of giving them as platform as a service, because they were already on one platform, right? They were already on the Azure, but what were they? They were platform as a service. So instead of having a platform as a service, let's do one thing. Let's bring them in one platform, but let's SaaSify them. Okay, let's SaaSify all these services. And that platform that Microsoft created is called as the Microsoft Fabric platform. So what is the Microsoft Fabric platform? It is nothing but a unified single platform for your for building or for your analytical solution. Okay, it's one-stop solution for your analytical requirements. So whatever you do, so what in simple terms, what is Microsoft platform? It is nothing but SaaSified data services or Azure data services, which uses the concept of M365. Okay, it uses the concept. So like how we have the M365 application. What is the M365 application? It's nothing but a SaaS application. Correct? It's a SaaS platform where Word, Excel, PPT, Outlook, all these things. Okay, all these things have come on one platform. Just 1 second, guys. I'll be back. Sorry, just a second. Yeah. So over here, like how we have the M365 platform, where on the M365 we have the Word, Excel, PowerPoint, all these services are already there. Or what do we need in order to use those services? It's just a license, right? One of the M365 licenses, and we can start using these services. So that is what basically is Microsoft Fabric. Okay, so it's nothing but think about all your data services just being SaaSified and put into one platform similar to your M365 platform. Okay, now if you have to start with the Fabric service, you have to get started. Now It's a service that is not created or it's not catering to the analytical requirements of an individual. It's a service that is built only to solve or these challenges or the only to build, I would say, analytical solution of enterprises. Okay, for enterprises only this particular platform has been built. So in case you are an individual and you want to use the Microsoft Fabric service, so you at least need a E3 or an E5 license or at least a domain name that talks about your enterprise. So it has to have a domain name. Okay, and along with that, you require a Fabric license. Okay, you require a Fabric license. So without that, you will not be able to get started with the Fabric service. So here I've already logged in. Okay, this is the Fabric platform. I'll just show you. Also, in case you all want to work on the Fabric platform, first thing is you require, okay, you will have to be a part of an enterprise. That means you need an organizational ID. Okay, you require that in order to use the Fabric service. And along with that, you require a Fabric license. Okay, you will require a Fabric license along with that. So Fabric license, we have a law. There are three kinds of Fabric licenses out there. So the first license is a free license. I'm just giving, for example, for information purposes, I am giving this. Okay. Yes, just for example, I'll tell you all also where you can go and you can search for it. Okay, so you have the free license where you get a trial capacity. Okay, where you get a trial capacity. That means it is available for a period of 2 months. You get this particular license. Okay, where you can just try the Fabric service for a period of 2 months, that is 60 days. You get it. It's a trial capacity. Sorry, just 1 second. I'll just sip some water. So you get it for a trial capacity or trial period, basically. Then the second license that you have is a pay as you go. Okay, so it's so basically Fabric or Microsoft in relation to Fabric offers licenses, or we also call it as capacity. Capacity is nothing but the compute. Okay, so it offers this capacity or compute, I would say, or license through something called as stock keeping units. Okay, it is called as the stock keeping units. Yes, I'll share the link with you all. So once I complete the explanation and we see a demo, so I will definitely share a link with you all. So don't worry about that. So regarding the licensing, all the links I will share in the chat. Okay, so here it gives in terms of SKUs, so the SKUs in Fabric, okay, range from F2 to F2048. Okay, every SKU has a number, and this is the SKU that you get. That is from F2 to F2048. Now, what does this mean? So, when we talk about the compute utilization or the capacity utilization, okay, it is measuring in Fabric. It measures through something called as capacity units, which is called as the CUs. Okay, so with every SKU, you get a capacity unit attached with it. So when we talk about F2, so you get 2 CUs. If we talk about F4, you get like 4 CUs. And those CUs are then later broken down into cores. Okay, V cores, you have memory, input, output. We all know this is what is basically a physical resource. So it basically gets broken down into this. Okay, it basically gets broken down into this. So when you go for the Fabric license, so in the trial capacity, okay, you have the F64 SKU that is offered as a trial capacity. But it is only available to you for how many months? 2 months. Okay, but now since this year, this year, I think February 2025, Microsoft has discontinued the free license. Okay, they have stopped giving people the free licenses for Fabric. Okay, so this is discontinued. This is no longer available. So in case you have to use the Fabric portal and you have to work with it, then you have to purchase one of the other licenses, that is the pay as you go. So in pay as you go, what do? Basically, you purchase one of these SKUs. Okay, you purchase one of these SKUs. So that is what is pay as you go. And once you purchase, so with every SKU, like I said, you have the course, you have the memory, there is some money. Okay, like how in Azure you have a subscription, and what is that subscription? It is nothing but the billing boundary up to where you can use the services, right? So even in Fabric, if you have to use the services, you have to pay immediately for it. You have to pay immediately for it. So that is why it is called as pay as you go. So that means you pay for that SKU immediately. So that is what is the pay as you go. So you have to purchase the SKU that you want, right? So this is the second license. The third license is called as reserved capacity or capacity reservation actually. So over here, what do you do? Basically, you're reserving one of these capacities. One of these SKUs you are reserving, and let's say you don't want to use it now, but you want to use it later, probably after a year or after 3 years. So whenever you use it, when you start using it, so it will switch to a pay-as-you-go license, but you will get it at a discounted rate. Why? Because you had reserved it for a couple of years. So for that, you reserve it and you keep it and you get a discount for this particular capacity. And then later on, it will switch to a pay-as-you-go model. It will switch to a pay-as-you-go model. So this is these are the licenses that you need. So first of all, of course, you have to be a part of the enterprise. Okay. Secondly, you should have a license. Now, who purchases this license? Okay, this you don't purchase, you have to, or if, or in case, okay, you are the admin of your enterprise, then you become something called as the Fabric admin. So what does the Fabric admin basically do? It is the job of, like how in an enterprise we get the email IDs or the domain name allocated to us, right? We get the permission to use either E3 or E5 license. So it's the same thing even in your Fabric. So your Fabric admin is somebody who will purchase the license for the enterprise. And how that license is going to be used, who will be the users to those licenses is determined by the Fabric admin. Okay, it is determined by the Fabric admin. So Fabric admin is basically like how you have your M365 administrator. So the M365 administrator, when you join the enterprise, will give you the permission to use the license. The same thing is done with your Fabric licenses as well. So when you purchase a license, you are the admin and you have a domain name. Okay, so at least you need a E3 or an E5 license that has a domain. So you have a domain created or a tenant of your organization to which you attach the Fabric license. So in case now you want to add people and they have to start using the Fabric service. So first of all, the Fabric admin has to give permission in order to use the Fabric service. Okay, so there is a very important role of the Fabric admin that is there. So it is the job of the admin to purchase the license and of course assign users. Like how you are assigned as a user, you become a tenant, right? To the license, to the subscription. So if you have to become a tenant, who's going to give you that permission? It is the Fabric admin. Okay, it is the job of the Fabric admin to do that. So here I have been like, I'm not the Fabric admin. I have been given permission by my Fabric admin to use the Fabric services, create Fabric content in the Fabric service. So it's not necessary that everyone in the enterprise gets this permission. So Shobh and I, we both are a part of the same enterprise. So it's not necessary that Shubh will get the permission to use Fabric services. No, he will not. Because he doesn't have to do any work on the Fabric portal or the use Fabric and build any analytical solution. right? His job profile is different. So not everyone in the enterprise gets the permission to use or gets the Fabric license or permission to use the Fabric license. Who takes that call? Who takes that decision? It is the Fabric admin. So here the Fabric admin has allocated a has allocated the license to me, has allocated the permission that, okay, go ahead, Manasi, you can use the Fabric services. So now if I have to get started, you have been given the permission. When you get a permission, basically what is happening? You are getting one of the capacities. Okay, you're getting a capacity allocated to you because without the capacity, right, without the capacity, how are you going to create the content, create notebooks, create pipelines, create reports, work with data in the Fabric service? So that is what is the capacity. Okay, so capacity is nothing but offered through SKUs. You need to be a tenant. For once you become a tenant, you are given capacity. And once you are given a capacity, you can create something called as a workspace. So if you recall, one of the challenges that we had discussed is because all these services are platform as a service, they are working individually, independently, and all the work that you do gets scattered across these workspaces. So that is what Fabric is trying to overcome. It has said, no, we don't want people to keep their work scattered. We want them in one place, in one location. So that is why it has become a unified platform where I can create all my work in one workspace. All the notebooks, all the pipelines, all the reports, all what you want to do within your data analytical solution, you can now store it in one workspace. So because of this, because the workspace now there is a common ground, it is unified, integration is easier. Okay, integrating and of course collaborating with other people, with your colleagues, with your teammates, with a data scientist, with a data analyst becomes easy on one single platform, and that is Microsoft Fabric. So now if I have to go ahead and use the Fabric service, so I can use, I need to, there is a endpoint that Microsoft has created, which is called as app.fabric.microsoft.com. Okay, so this is the endpoint that you need to use in order to log in. So you can see, you can go to Power BI also. Okay, and you can get this endpoint. But there is a difference between the Power BI and the Fabric service, which I will talk about. Now let's go ahead and see how to create a workspace, because this is where your majority of your work is going to be done. Okay, this is the place where the collaboration, the integration, or the content that you create in the Fabric service is going to be done. So let's just see how to create a workspace once you log into the Fabric portal. You give your organizational ID. So keep in mind, guys, if you don't have an organizational ID, you will not be able to work with the Fabric content or create the Fabric content. So here the very first thing that we need to do is, once you get the permission, once a permission has been allocated to you, okay, you are allowed. That means who is giving you the permission? It is the host, is the Fabric admin. Keep that in mind. Okay, it is the Fabric admin. And once you've been given the permission, so Shanti Prakash, there is a link that Shubh has shared just now. So if you see the first link, BP600, so you have to just click on that link. Okay. So if you're not able to redeem it, guys, use your mobile phones, use your personal data or something, and always use your personal ID, okay, so that you all can redeem the badges. Okay, you can go and redeem your badges. So please do that. Use your personal ID only in order to redeem it. So it will definitely work, everyone. Just use your personal ID. Don't use your official ID if you're a part of some enterprise. Don't use that. So now let's go ahead and create a workspace. So here we have this workspaces tab. Just click on that and click on the new workspace. Give it a name. Okay, give it a name. So here I'll just call this as this. And if you click on the advanced button, you will see this is where you can go ahead and allocate the license. Okay, allocate the license to your workspace, because once you create the workspace, okay, you need capacity. So this is where you are allocating the capacity to your workspace. Okay, this is where you are allocating the capacity. And once this is done, just click on the apply button and it will create a workspace over here. Now, next to your workspace, can you see this is the name of your workspace? And next to that, you have a diamond symbol. So this diamond symbol indicates that this workspace is capable of working with Fabric content. Now, why this diamond symbol is important? Okay, this is because, see, Microsoft Fabric is a service that Microsoft created, and it has integrated this service in the existing Power BI service. Okay, in the existing Power BI service, that means if you see here, we can also work with Power BI. I can also work with Power BI, the exact same concepts of Power BI I can use. But let's say I create a workspace and I call this as, and I do one thing, I give it a Power BI license. Okay, one of the Power BI license where we have the pro or the premium license. Okay, so let's say I give this license and I click on apply. So if you observe, when I create and I allocate this workspace, a Power BI license or a premium, a pro license or a PPU license, okay, there is no diamond symbol. There is no diamond symbol. Now, why is that? Because if you go and if you have to work in the Fabric or you have to use Fabric content, so Fabric content basically is called as an item. I repeat, it is called as an item. Okay, it is called as an item. Now, what is an item? It is nothing but the building blocks of the Fabric service, the content that we talk about, right? That is nothing but your lake houses, warehouses, pipelines, notebooks, reports, dashboards, semantic model, blah, blah, blah. They are nothing but the building blocks of Fabric, and that is called as the item. So here, if I have to create a Fabric item, like a pipeline or something, right? So I go to new item. If you click on that, you will be able to create the items and you can see that it is being categorized. Okay, these items have been categorized depending on what you want to work with the or you want to do with the data. So if you want to ingest the data or you want to store the data, you want to prepare the data, analyze the data, create a report, create a dashboard, visualize it. Okay, so they have been categorized and have been given to you over here. So let's say I want to create a pipeline. I want to do data. I want to use data factory component, right? So over here we have this pipeline option. If I click on it, so can you see it is not giving me an error? This is not an error. It's just telling me that, okay, if you have to use one of the Fabric items, okay, you will need a Fabric capacity. Because here, what am I using? I'm using a Power BI license, a Power BI capacity. So Power BI restriction is only till the report, till the dashboard, till data flow. Okay, it's not something that expands to the Fabric items. So if I have to use the Fabric content, create the Fabric content, then I cannot use the Pro or the PPU licenses of Power BI. I will require a Fabric capacity, a Fabric license. I will require. Okay, so you can work with Power BI using the Fabric capacity. That is possible. But if I have to work with Fabric and use Power BI license, not possible. That is not allowed over here. Okay, so that is what is the main difference between the Fabric capacity and the Power BI licenses. So though they are on the same platform, it's been integrated here only. This is the challenge. Okay, this is what is the difference between the Power BI and the Fabric licenses. So even if you do have a Pro license or a PPU license, you will still require at least a Fabric trial capacity or one of the Fabric capacities. Okay, so this is how you can get started okay, with the fabric service. This is what basically is the fabric service, right? So here we discussed about all these services coming in one platform, getting integrated and being managed in the workspace, correct? But what about the data? Because here it is a data analytical platform, it's an analytical platform that is there. So of course, I told you in the beginning that data without analysis and data without analysis and analysis without data is meaningless, right? Because I have to analyze what? The data. So I need to store the data in Fabric. In order to use the Fabric service, we need the data. So where is the data being managed then? So over here, okay, let's talk about the scenario before also, before Fabric came, and what was the scenario in context to the data. So when we take a single enterprise, okay, when we talk about a single enterprise, so in a single enterprise, we all know there are different departments. We have the sales department, right? We have the marketing department. Okay, we have the marketing department. We have the HR, we have the finance departments. All these departments are there, correct? We have the HR. And all these departments have their own way of storing the data, correct? They have their own way of storing the data. So here I'm going to consider it to be a data lake, okay, where they are storing their data is a data lake. So what is a data lake? Let me just explain it to you all. It is nothing but a storage only where you can dump any type of data that you like. Okay, whether it's structured data, it is semi-structured data, whatever kind of data you want, you can just dump that data here. Okay, so that is nothing but a data lake. So it accepts structured data, semi-structured data, unstructured data into its system, into its storage. So it's like a central repository only, but the primary format in which you store this type of data is nothing but a file format. Okay, so let's say every department is storing, has its own data lake in order to store their data. Okay, it has its own storage. So let's say sales has its own storage, or that is has its own data lake, marketing has its own data lake, HR has its own data lake, correct? So here what happens now? Every enterprise is managing their own data, right? Similarly, how we had the applications or the services where they have their own platforms, right? They were independently being managed. They were independently, or you had to integrate them later on because of their platform. As this or Microsoft Fabric came in and it has solved that problem. But what about the data then? Data is also getting scattered. Data is also being independently managed. So such a problem in context to data is called as the data silos or data silos. So what does this mean? What is data silos or silos meaning? That it is individually or independently being managed. Like how your data services were independently working, and what was the biggest challenge that we were facing was integration, which has been overcome by the Fabric service. But what about the data? Because data is also going in them. So you can't have different storages just for managing data. So what happens? They are also being individually managed. So it leads to a problem, which is the data silos. That is, data is independently being stored. Every department, every domain has their own storage. So what happens here? It leads to certain problems. Now, let's say we all know sales and marketing are teams that go hand in hand, right? They work together, collaborate on a lot of things. How you market your product, it determines the sales, right? Whether the sales increases or decreases. Why did the sales go down? Was it because of some marketing strategy that was used, right? We need to do that analysis. We need to understand that. Correct. So what does sales and marketing do? They share their own data. Let's see. So now what happens? Sales has a file and it wants to share it with the marketing team. So it will create a copy of that file and share that copy of data on the data lake of the marketing team. Correct? It will share it on that in its data lake. So what happens? Multiple copies of the same file get created, right? Now the sales team wants to share this data with the HR team or with the finance team. Another copy gets created. So what is happening? Because the data is individually being managed, it is acting as silos or silos. So over here, the data, multiple copies are getting generated. Now, if you have multiple copies, that means the security that you manage on them is also going to be individually managed. Every file, the security that you have to apply will be different. Data governance, if you have to apply, right? Data governance. Okay, even here I forgot to mention one point. Data governance is also a challenge because you need to adhere to some policies, some rules, some regulations because you're managing data. Data has to be protected. So multiple copies get created. Resource sharing becomes a problem because you have to create multiple copies. Then security is a challenge. There is no common ground for your security. Multiple copies of the file get created. So security is a challenge, right? Then handling the uh, then even managing identity access will become a challenge. So similarly, all those challenges that we saw on top, just think about it in the way you store your data. If they are independently being stored, if the data is independently being stored, so it's of course going to be a challenge, right? So in this scenario, Microsoft said, see, even I don't want the data to be independently managed. I don't want silos. Because of that, you get multiple copies and blah, blah, all those things come into picture. Let's do one thing, okay? Let's just even bring in the data in one single location. Let's even collaborate or store this data instead of having different storages and managing those different storages. Let's create one storage, which they call it as the one lake. Okay, so it's a single unified central repository. Okay, central repository of for storing data. Okay, it is a single unified central repository for storing your data. So think of one lake. Okay, if you have to think, because I told you, think of Microsoft Fabric as how you have M365. And in M365, we all know that we have one service, which is OneDrive. So think of one lake as the OneDrive, but for data. Okay, so think of OneLake as OneDrive. So like how in OneDrive, we can upload any kind of files, right? Excel, CSV, text files, audio, video, PPT files, any kind of file we can upload in OneDrive. So think of OneLake in that direction only. So think of OneLake as the OneDrive, but for data. So you have structured data, you have semi-structured data, you have unstructured data, and you want to load it into the Fabric service, into your Fabric, where you get it in a single location where only one copy now. So what happens if everything is centralized, everything is in one location, there is going to be one copy that is going to be maintained, right? There will be only one copy that is going to be maintained, and that is going to be stored where? It is going to be stored in the one lake. Okay, it is going to be stored in one lake. So that is what exactly is one lake. So one lake is like a root directory for for a tenant. Okay, it's a root directory where your data is basically stored. So the data could be structured, semi-structured, unstructured, doesn't matter. So if you want to store the data into your one lake, so you can have different kinds of storages. So what are the different storages here? One such storage that you can use in order to store, let's say your data is semi-structured and unstructured. Okay, or the data that you're getting from the source is a file format. So in that scenario, you can use a lakehouse to store the data. So whenever you want to work with semi-structured or unstructured data, then use the lakehouse, okay, to store that data. Okay, so what is a lakehouse? I'll very quickly tell you. So lakehouse is nothing but a combination. Okay, it is nothing but a combination of data lake. On top of that, you have the data warehouse built. So it's basically bringing in two storage capabilities in one, which is the data lake and the data warehouse. So that is nothing but a lake house. So we will see a demo. I'll very quickly show you all a demo on the lake house. Then the second kind of storage that you can have. So if you want to work with structured data, okay, when you are loading into the one lake, when you want to load the structured data, then you can store it in your warehouse. So here this works with semi-structured and unstructured data, but your warehouse works with structured data. Okay, your lake house. So this is the warehouse. So warehouse is more where you can work with structured data. So if you want to now work with, or you want to create a Power BI report, and we all know for a Power BI report, we need something called as a semantic model. So you can even create a semantic model and store your data so that using this model, you can build, okay, you can build a Power BI report. You can build a Power BI report. Now, let's say you want to work with semi-structured, sorry, you want to work with real-time data, right? You want to work with real-time data in the Fabric service and store that data into one lake. Make a single copy available. So if you want to store the real-time data, then you can create a event house, which works with real-time data, helps you in performing real-time analysis. Okay, so these are the ways, some of the ways. Now they have also incorporated Cosmos DB. They have also incorporated SQL Server, that is the SQL database also you can create. And you can store that data, and one copy of that data will be available in one lake. So now let's just see a simple demo on Lakehouse. Okay, just think of it as a combination of the data lake and the warehouse. So let's just see a very simple demo how to create. I'll also show you all how to create a warehouse very quickly. So let's go back to the workspace. And in the workspace, I'm going to click on the new item and go to the store data, wherein whatever data I store into the lake house or the warehouse, it is going to be available to me in the one lake catalog. Okay, so here I'm just going to select the lake house. I'm going to give it a name and just click on the create button. Very simple, right? So this is how you can create a lake house. So if you want to primarily work with files, so always create a lake house. So here I'm going to upload a file, and on top of those files, let's say you want to query them. You want to write SQL queries on top of them, then you should use the lake house. So whenever you have semi-structured, unstructured data, okay, so you can use the lake house. So here I'll just use my local system and I'm going to browse for a file. So this is how I'm going to, so you have to just click on the upload button, and I already have the file downloaded. So I'm just click on the upload button and it will upload a CSV file. So if you go to the file section, click on this, you will see the sales.csv file uploaded. So you can just click on this and you can get a preview of your file. Okay, you can see the preview. Now, because this is so, Lakehouse primary or the foundation of the Lakehouse is your data lake only. Okay, it's a data lake only that you're working on. But the warehouse part is like a, what we say, it's just like a pseudo layer that has been added so that if you want to query your files, do simple reading analysis. Okay, perform simple reading analysis, and where you don't have to update the data, where you can't actually update the data or modify the data, just simple reading analysis from a file if you want to perform. Okay, it's just a simple reading analysis if you have to perform on top of your file, then you can use, so along with the lakehouse, so if you go to the workspace and if you come to the workspace, along with the lakehouse, okay, can you see you also get a SQL Analytics endpoint. So what is the SQL Analytics endpoint? It is nothing but the data warehouse on your data lake. So don't think it is like a warehouse. No. Okay. It is a data lake on top of which you are getting the semantics like a SQL editor or like a data warehouse. So because the foundation, okay, the foundation is a lake house. It's a data lake. So you can do simple reading analysis only. So that is why the SQL Analytics endpoint that gets created along with a lake house is a read-only endpoint. Now, why read-only? Because it is built on top of the data lake. The foundation is a data lake and not a warehouse. So so you can just write some DQL statements. That means you can just write select statements to read the data. But you cannot write DDL or DML statements. Okay, you cannot write DDL or DML statements on top of the data or on top of this warehouse. So any updation or modification statement, I'm sorry, any updation or modification statements if you have to write, you cannot write that on the lakehouse or using the SQL Analytics endpoint. So this is the difference. That is why this is the difference between the lakehouse and the warehouse. You might be wondering, right? We have the warehouse in the lakehouse. Why do we have another component for the warehouse? So where the warehouse in your lakehouse is just a pseudo layer that has been built on top of the data lake. The foundation is still the data lake. Keep that in mind. Whereas in the warehouse, the foundation is not the data lake. It is a warehouse. How a warehouse is supposed to act, it acts as a warehouse. Okay, so that is why we have two different components, and the data also that they are managing, we all know is different, right? So over here now, in the warehouse, I mean in the lake house, we can go ahead and we can even create a delta table. So you can convert this file to a delta table. It's very simple. Just go to that specific file, click on the three dots, and can you see you get the option to load two tables? So the table that you create, because it's a data lake, and in a data lake, when you create a table, it is nothing but called as a delta table. So here you can, from a file, load it to a delta table. And the schema that you will see is nothing but a delta schema. It's a delta table. So when the table gets created, so you will see the delta. Shubh, if you are there, can you let me know whether I'm audible or not, or the rest of the participants? Okay, so Suyash, I think there is a problem from your end. So you just can you just log into the meeting again? Just log out and log in. Then I think it will solve the problem. So if you see here, we have a delta table that gets created. Can you see we have a delta table here? And can you see to the table, we have a triangle symbol. So that indicates it's a delta table. Okay. So Yash, the problem is from your end. I repeat, please log into the session again. It is something that you have to check. Your internet issue has there's some problem at your end. So please verify that, because the others are able to hear what I am speaking and I have a good internet connection. So just log into the session, join the session again. Okay. Another important thing, guys, before you leave, because we will be wrapping up the session soon in like 5 minutes. So just a request to all of you all. There is a feedback form that Shubh has shared in the chat box. So if you could give us your feedback, it would be really, really valuable. Was this as insightful session? What do you think we can improve upon? What are your thoughts, your suggestions? We would love to hear from you all. So if you could please give us your feedback. It will just take 2 minutes, not more than that. So please do not leave the meeting without giving us your feedback. Okay, so just please ensure that you give us your feedback. So now over here, we have created a delta table. So let's go ahead and write a simple SQL command on top of it. So I told you using the SQL analytics endpoint, I can do SQL semantics, right? I can write SQL commands on top of the lakehouse. That is where the warehouse part comes. Okay, so here until and unless you don't create a delta table, guys, you will not be able to write SQL commands using the SQL semantics, that is the SQL analytics endpoint. So now if I have to access the SQL analytics endpoint, I can do it in two ways. One is you can come to the workspace, okay, and directly click on this endpoint. So it will take you to a different browser, that is the SQL Analytics endpoint. If you see on the right-hand side, you have the SQL Analytics endpoint. The other thing, the other way you can come to the SQL Analytics endpoint is come to the Lakehouse Explorer. So can you see we are currently in the Lakehouse Explorer, right? So on the right-hand side of the Lakehouse Explorer, can you see the view we are currently in? It is the Lakehouse. So if you click on the drop down here, can you see we are getting the SQL Analytics endpoint? Just click on that. And now, using this analytics endpoint, you will be able to query your table. So if you come to the schema and expand the DBO, expand the tables, can you see which table do we have? It is nothing but the sales table. So until and unless you don't convert your file to a delta table, you will not be able to write SQL commands. But you can't write DDL or DML commands. Okay, so over here, Shubh, if you're listening to me, so can you please reshare the YouTube channel links in the chat so that people can access the recordings, go through the webinar again, so that they can subscribe to our channel. So Shubh, if you're listening to me, please do the needful. Please share the links, our social media platform links with the participants once again. Okay, so over here now I can just go ahead and write a simple SQL statement. So we can do, like I said, only reading analysis is possible. So let's just do some group by operation here. So we can definitely perform some group by. So I'm just writing this. I'm not explaining what it is. So you will have to study about it, of course. Okay, so whenever you come and study for the fabric, or you're using the fabric tools, guys, it is a prerequisite that you know, okay, no, it is absolutely free. Subscription to our channel is absolutely free. Okay. Just if you're asking for the YouTube, the recordings that is there. So it is absolutely free. Okay. So notes I cannot share with you all. I'm not allowed to do that, but you can definitely go and revisit the recordings. Okay. Revise from there or refer the notes from there. So here, let's just do a simple group by. So I can write item, and along with the group by operation, we all know that we have to give a aggregation function. So here I'll be using the sum function, and I'll just do a simple sum, that is quantity multiplied by unit price, and give it an alias, a shorter name. So I'm going to call this as revenue, which is nothing but quantity multiplied by unit price. And I need to mention from which table. So here just say sales. And we are doing a grouping. So I want to see item wise, I want to see what is the total sales or what is the total revenue that has been generated. So here I will be giving the item column and I will be ordering it according to the revenue. Okay, I will be ordering it according to the revenue. So over here, just click on the run button and you will see the output. Okay, so this is how you can write a SQL command on top of the lakehouse. Let's say you are from the Power Query background, okay, or from the Power BI background, and you know your Power Query skills, you have good Power Query skills. So you can even write a visual query here. So how to do that? Just come to the SQL over here, and can you see you have this new visual query? Just select that, and you can actually use your Power Query skills and you can even visualize the query. So if you want like a low code, no code approach to query the tables, You can even do that using the SQL Analytics endpoint. All you have to do is drag the sales table or the table that you want to query. Just drag it onto the canvas and you can go ahead. So if you see, the interface is similar to your Power Query editor, which you normally find it in the Power BI desktop application. So you can see that over here. So you can go ahead and even visualize it. So here, let's say I want to do some Power Query skills. So let's say I want to keep certain columns. So I'm going to go with the choose column options. And I'm just going to keep two columns. Okay, I'm just going to keep these two columns and click on OK. So once I select these two columns, can you see the rest of the columns have been removed? Only two columns have been kept, right? You can even perform a group by here. Okay, you can even do a group by. So I'll just select the group by option. And you can perform a group by. So normally whatever you were writing as a SQL command, you can see you are getting it in the form of a visual. Okay, you're visualizing that query. So here you can just give an alias. So this is where you give the alias where we wrote as revenue. So this is an alias. And like I told you, whenever you perform a group by, you have to always give a aggregation function. So that is what I've given. And on which column are you performing the aggregation function is what I'm mentioning over here. So this is just click on OK. And you can see the data has been filtered and you're getting a grouping operation. So this is how you can create a lakehouse. Very simple. It's very easy even to create a warehouse. So just click on the new item and you can create a warehouse here. So just give it a name. And once you create that warehouse, so this warehouse is nothing but going to be created in the same workspace where you have created the lake house. So if you see, this is the difference. On the right hand side, we don't have the view. We are not seeing SQL Analytics endpoint. This is a warehouse that you're actually creating in the Fabric service. Correct? And now if you go to the workspace, can you see the warehouse is created here only? Right? And now, like I told you, we have a one lake. So where to see the one lake? So one lake is nothing but here. All the data that you upload, you can see it in one space. So whatever workspaces you create, right? Whatever workspace you create in the Fabric service, all that data is now, can you see as a one copy has been uploaded here? Okay, so that this is what is called as the one lake. So if you want to see what data is loaded into the one lake, is you use the one lake catalog to do that. Okay, so this is just the beginning, guys. There is a lot of things when we talk about the Fabric service. So just to talk about the certifications that you can look at in case you want to go and deep dive into the Fabric service. This is just the introduction. Okay, so there are two certifications that you can look for. One is called as the DP 600, which is called as the Microsoft Certified Fabric Analytics Engineer Associate. Okay, so this is one certification that you can look for, which is the Fabric Analytics, okay, Engineer. I think it's Analytics Associate. Let me just check the name once. Okay, it's Analytic Engineer, I'm correct, Associate, Fabric Analytic Engineer Associate. And the second certification that you can deep dive into is nothing but the Microsoft Certified Fabric Data Engineer Associate. Okay, so both these certifications you can look at and you can get a deep dive into what is exactly the Fabric service. So one aims at one aims at the analytical part of the Fabric service and the other aims at the data engineering aspect using the Fabric service. Okay, so this is the two certifications that you can look for and you can get a deep dive into the Microsoft Fabric service. Okay, so this is just the beginning, everyone, into the Fabric, and this is how you can manage. So if you look at, so I have one of the workspaces that I have created. So all the work that I have done, you can see pipelines, data flows, notebooks, semantic model, warehouse, different lake houses. We even worked with real-time intelligence that is using event house and etc. You can see it's in one workspace, right? Even creating training AI models, okay, all those things using the Fabric service now, I can get it in one workspace, in one platform. And that is what is the advantage of using Fabric. So you can bring in your teammates, data team can come and collaborate. So of course, there are different ways of sharing the workspace, sharing different things. Okay, all those things we will definitely. You can see once you go into the DP 600 or the 700 service. So for now, guys, let's end the session here. That's it from my end. So thank you everyone for attending today's webinar. I hope it was insightful. So if you have any thoughts or anything where we can improve upon this, so please do let us know in the feedback. Please do not leave the meeting without giving us your feedback. So please keep in mind your feedback is really, really valuable. Positive, negative, it always helps us improve on this particular webinars. Okay. So free passes we don't get. Okay, we don't get the free passes, unfortunately. So there are no free passes here. So Azure has stopped the passes. You have to purchase only the Azure subscription. So there are no free passes. Okay, 1 month you can kind of use the, yeah. So there are no free passes still available. So they have discontinued this. Okay, I'll share the YouTube link and this, just give me a minute. Yeah. So thank you everyone. If you have no questions, no doubts, I've shared the YouTube link channel in the chat. Once again, I have shared it. So please do subscribe to our channel, stay updated on our YouTube or our community channel. So for more webinars on upcoming technologies like AI and etc. So thank you everyone once again for attending this session, and I will see you all in future sessions. So before you all leave the session, guys, please do give us your feedback. Do not leave the meeting without giving us your feedback. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening, and you can drop off from the session. So Suresh, for the Azure credits, only 1 month you get it. Okay, 1 month is only free, but after that you have to pay for it. Microsoft has stopped the pass system now. They no longer give it, so you have to pay and use the Azure subscription. Azure, I mean, if you have to use anything on Azure, you have to pay for it. Okay. So thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.
So much, Mansita. Thank you everyone. Session in the sites. So everyone, please do give us the feedback regarding this session. I've already shared the link in the chat box. It's really, really very important for us to get your feedback. And as Mansi ma'am have already shared the link to our YouTube channel and our meetup community. So do follow us on our social media platforms to get relevant updates on our upcoming webinars, workshops, and all the trainings we do. Once again, thank you so much, everyone. Please do not end the meeting without filling the platform. Thank you.